news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwartsman. 2 days of fighting between Syrian government forces and loyalists to former President Bashar Assad, as well as revenge killings, have resulted in more than 1,000 people being killed. That's according to the British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The clashes come 3 months after insurgents overthrew Assad's government. Revenge killings by Sunni Muslims loyal to the government against Assad's minority Alawite population left bodies in the streets of Syria's coastal region. Under Assad, Alawites held top posts in the army and security agencies, but were removed after the fall of the previous regime. The U.S. has rejected a Canadian proposal to establish a task force that would tackle Russia's so-called shadow fleet of oil tankers, while pushing to strengthen language calling out China for dangerous activities around the South China Sea. Russia's ghost fleet refers to oil tankers that are concealed to breach Western sanctions placed on Russia since the country launched an invasion of neighboring Ukraine. Canada, which holds this year's revolving G7 presidency, will be hosting a summit of foreign ministers in Quebec next week to talk about the issue. Israel says it is sending a delegation to Qatar on Monday to attempt to advance negotiations to continue the ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas, meanwhile, has reported, quote, positive signals in talks with Qatari and Egyptian mediators on the second phase of the truce with Israel. Hamas currently is believed to hold 24 living hostages, along with the bodies of 35 others. In a move to pressure Hamas into releasing more hostages in an extension of the first phase, Israel last weekend cut off all supplies into Gaza. U.S. consumer prices are expected to have risen in February, as Bureau of Labor Statistics figures on Wednesday are projected to show that the consumer price index minus food and energy climbed 0.3%, based on the median estimate of economists surveyed by Bloomberg. That number would be less than January's 0.4 gain. The magnitude of the increase leaves annual price growth elevated. According to estimates, the core CPI likely increased 3.2% from February of last year. The Fed, which is currently in a blackout period ahead of their March 18th to 19th gathering, have an inflation goal of 2%. Reversing a Biden administration policy, the Social Security Administration will resume withholding full benefits from senior citizens who have received overpayments, aiming to recoup $7 billion over the next decade. Previously, the administration limited withholdings to 10% of any one paycheck. The change goes into effect beginning March 27th, but the overpayment recovery rate will remain at 10% for beneficiaries of the Supplemental Security Income Program. Airbus is warning that Australia has become overly reliant on Chinese supplies of aviation fuel, calling on the government to kickstart domestic production amid increased tension between Canberra and Beijing. That story from Bloomberg's Charlie Pellett.
Stephen Forshaw, Airbus's chief representative for Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific, says instead of buying more jet fuel from overseas, Australia should be using its vast supplies of agricultural feedstock to make sustainable aviation fuel at home. His remarks came at a renewable fuels conference last week in Sydney. Airbus's plea comes at a sensitive time in regional geopolitics after recent live-fire drills by China's Navy in the Tasman Sea drew rebukes from officials in Australia and New Zealand. In New York, Charlie Pellett, Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks, Charlie. Italian defense and aerospace company Leonardo has replaced Bank of America with Deutsche Bank to advise on talks to forge a new European space and satellite champion. Reports say one reason for the pivot was business-related around a potential conflict related to another client. Deutsche Bank is set to help Leonardo in talks with Airbus and French aerospace company Thales to merge their space and satellite operations to compete better against SpaceX. European firms, including Airbus, have suffered significant financial losses trying to keep up with Elon Musk's company. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwartsman, and this is Bloomberg.